Hi gamers. Here we have a big old pile of GameCube games ready to be presented to you as a part of my ongoing console-specific collection update videos. I previously did these like 5 or 6 years ago, so it's high time for me to revisit some of my consoles. I first started out with the NES, and now it's time for the GameCube. I got a total of 111 games for the GameCube, so let's check out what the collection looks like at the moment. Usually I would go in alphabetical order with these, but I just know I'm gonna miss these, so I'm just gonna get my Japanese games out of the way first, and then we go to the US and PAL collection in alphabetical order. First up here in the Japanese games we have a Nintendo puzzle collection, which is a collection of 3 great puzzle games: Dr. Mario, Panel de Pan, and Yoshi no Cookie. It also comes with a GBA link cable, so you can use your Game Boy Advance to control the games. Then we have a Pokemon box, Ruby Red and Sapphire Blue, and again this also includes a Game Boy Advance link cable, but also a memory card 59 with some Ruby and Sapphire stickers to stick onto your memory card. And Pokemon box is like a collection of little things. Some demos and info on Pokemon. I wouldn't call it a full-fledged game, but it's still a cool release, and this box is a nice way to own it. Then we have I gotta check out here, Dragon Drive D-Master's Shot. The only reason why I have this game is it's because it's made by Treasure. It just might be the worst game that Treasure has ever made, but still, I gotta have one of these. Then we have Mr. Driller, Drill Land. Great puzzle action. As is this, we got a Kururin Squash. Now, Kururin was my favorite Game Boy Advance launch game. I think it was a launch game. Just a fantastic little puzzle maze game, and it is more of the same on GameCube. Of course, the graphics are not what makes the game great, but it just has some flashy effects here, and also the ability to play with 4 players. So just a great game. I gotta show how the Japanese games look. So all the Japanese games have this cardboard slip cover, and the cases look like this. And so the disc is here, place for your memory card, and the paperwork are here. So just a blank cover or case. It doesn't have like a sleeve that you can put your paperwork inside. So just this, and this goes on here, and it's when you compare it to the regular DVD cases, it's really tiny. So something to differentiate the cases, as the discs themselves were really small and cute. So that's it for the Japanese games. So let's get on to the alphabetical order of the rest of the collection. With 18-wheeler, great Sega arcade truck action with some, you're basically like with any driving game, you're trying to get from point A to point B in the time allotted. There's also some nice mini games where you have to park your 18-wheeler truck in as precise manner as possible. Good stuff. Then we have 1080 Avalanche, a nice follow-up to 1080 snowboarding on the Nintendo 64. And this is one of the few games that has the broadband mark here, meaning that you can hook up your GameCubes as a local area network. If both machines have the broadband adapter, then you can hook it up between them and have a multiplayer action on separate TVs. Other games that use that feature are Mario Kart Double Dash and Kirby's Air Ride. Not sure if those three were it. We got a couple of sports games here: 2002 FIFA World Cup and 2006 FIFA World Cup. GameCube is it's getting to the age where I just can't allow myself to pass up any games, basically, because it's still Nintendo. I'm a Nintendo fan, Nintendo collector. So maybe if you know, a couple of years down the line, I decide to collect all the games for the GameCube, it would be a shame if I had, you know, passed up basically free sports games. I don't collect sports games for you know, all the consoles. Like PlayStation 2, there are just tons and tons of those. Those I wouldn't you know, get onto my shelves even for free, because space is at a premium. But with Nintendo consoles, I'm willing to do the exception nowadays. But Ace Golf, and then a true classic, Animal Crossing. This is actually, well, this is the Animal Crossing that many have played. The first, you know, the first in the series, but this isn't the first in the series. The Nintendo 64 had the first Animal Crossing, but only in Japan. And this is actually a direct port of the Nintendo 64 game, just with added bonuses, like with the again here the Game Boy Advance link function and all sorts of stuff that's possible on a more powerful machine. But yeah, what can I say? Just a huge phenomenon that's going strong to this day, and really looking forward to Animal Crossing on the Switch. Just a fantastic game, and you could even nowadays, I guess it's not as important as it was back in the day, but you could play some NES games inside the game here. These days you can download them and play on the Nintendo Switch online and everything. But back then it was kind of novelty to be able to play some old retro games on your new machine. So you could collect furniture like NES consoles and play the actual games inside here. So that was a really nice plus. Baten Kaitos, Eternal Wings and the Lost Ocean. Really great Japanese RPG from Namco, and one of the biggest third-party exclusives on the GameCube. Sadly, I don't have the sequel yet. Batman Vengeance. Oh, sorry. Battalion Wars, which is a spiritual sequel to Advance Wars and Famicom Wars before that. Sadly, this isn't a really tight turn-based strategy game like the previous games. This is a real-time third-person action game, and as such, it's really really not up to the standards of the series, in my opinion. It would have been really cool to have a turn-based strategy game on the GameCube as well. But it's an okay action game, I guess. Beach Bikers by Sega. You know, when Sega went from a console manufacturer to a third-party publisher, they basically divided all of their IPs pretty evenly on the GameCube, the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox. And what Nintendo got was Beach Bikers and some other games that I'm going through well, like 18-wheeler, but some other games as well that we'll get to in this video. And I would say that Xbox got the best games, like with Panzer Dragoon Orta, and well, Sega also published Otogi from Software, so that was a huge bonus for Xbox from the Sega third-party deal. But yeah, Beat Spikers, it's just a great 4-player games, especially just a really nice couch co-op game, 2 versus 2, and it's just a blast. I really recommend this game. Beyond Good and Evil, the cult classic. Of course, it's available on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox as well, but I got here for the GameCube, of course. The next Sega game is Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, from the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, and made by a Sonic team. I wouldn't say, it's kind of silly for Sega to bring, a 3D platformer like this under the GameCube, which has Mario and other platformers as well. So why bring it to the console that has the best competition? But yeah, that's what Sega did. It's an okay game. Burnout, a real classic, nice fresh take on the pretty tired racing genre. So in Burnout you have to race as dangerously as possible without actually crashing. Of course, the mini games are, you're required to crash in the most spectacular fashion as you can. So some really great 4-wheel action here. Chibi-Robo, actually I think one of the rarer and more valuable games on the GameCube. Wasn't really popular when it came out, so that means it's really collectible these days. Really quirky, really a small robot simulator. It's going around your house, cleaning and doing chores, and yeah, just full of heart. Dancing Stage Mario Mix, made by Konami. Of course I have here the dance mat as well, but this is just a game from inside that bigger box. Yeah, this was the time when Nintendo was starting to allow other companies to use their IPs, so that's what they did with Konami here. Die Hard Vendetta. And then we have Donkey Konga 1 and 2. Sadly, I don't have any Japanese Donkey Konga games. I think they have 3 over there, but it's all the same. They're not the same 3 games as far as the song collection goes. So very different games in Japan, and yeah, just a blast to play. I really love Donkey Konga games. The songs are not original, they're like cover versions, but really good cover versions. And yeah, just you have the 2 bongos there and a microphone in the middle that can detect you clapping your hands, and you can get some really nice compositions out of the songs, and definitely a unique rhythm game. And it was really nice to have something else to play with the bongo drums. Here we have Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, a really unique 2D platformer that you could use the bongo drums to play with, and it really works. DK moves with the drums, and you jump with. I think you jump with pressing the drums both down, and you do actions with clapping your hands, and it's just a really nice visceral experience. Really gets your sweat going, and it really fits with the Donkey Kong aesthetic of pounding your chest and you know, just going ape. Then we have Doshin the Giant. This is originally a 64DD game, you know, the disc add-on for the Nintendo 64, and you know, that didn't sell all that well, and only in Japan at that. So it's nice that they made some of the games. Well, actually, I think this is the only game that they ported over to GameCube. This is a really weird game. As you can see from the cover, you're basically this yellow god that's walking around helping villagers. If you want to become this benevolent and loved god, or you can smash the villagers' houses and level mountains and you know, flood everything if you want to be the devil, basically, as you can see here in the middle. And just a very, very unique game. I recommend trying this out if you want to play something you really haven't played before. And it's fully customizable, or you know, fully destructible environments, and you can raise or lower the ground, and everything is saved onto the memory card. And it was pretty advanced stuff on the Nintendo 64, on the 64DD. The discs were, you know, rewritable, so you could have lots of space to where to save the state of the game. And but they got it working on the GameCube as well. So yeah, really nice that this was released in Europe as well. So not just Japan. Egomania. Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. One of the I think one of the best exclusives on the GameCube. Just a really excellent horror game with some really good writing, excellent plot, very good voice actors, and just a very unique atmosphere. And I love the little sanity effects. You really get a kick out of those. You know, the game tells right when you're about to get attacked by zombies, the game tells you that your controller is disconnected and it's not working, and you jump up from the sofa and race to the console to connect your controller again, and it was all like a dream. You wake up somewhere and there's no zombies anywhere, and the game was just screwing with you. So lots of those different sanity effects, and just a very unique atmosphere. Very dark, very adult game. We have some of those sports games as well. F1 Career Challenge, FIFA Football 2003 and 2004. Then we have Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. This was actually quite a big deal back in the day, because this was the first game that Square made for Nintendo after they had went with PlayStation with Final Fantasy VII. So this was the first Final Fantasy game on a Nintendo console after a long pause. It was not your typical Final Fantasy game. It doesn't have the turn-based battles and you know, 100-hour plots or something like that, or pre-rendered FMV videos, but it was just something different. This is a really nice co-op game, and this is one of those games that you can use your Game Boy Advance as the controller. You get some extra info on the screen there, and a really charming game. I love the graphics here. The atmosphere is great, and just a really heartwarming game. I love Crystal Chronicles. Sadly, I played through it all by myself. I didn't have 3 friends to play it with, but that's the way to do it if you can. Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. One of the more collectible GameCube games, and one that has some of the biggest price tags on the system, and it's no wonder why. This is the best game in the Fire Emblem series. The music, the characters, the plot, everything is just perfect. There's nothing extra about the game. It's just the quintessential Fire Emblem experience, and I really need the game if you have a Nintendo GameCube. Fantastic. F-Zero GX. One of those IPs that Nintendo lets other companies develop. This is made by Amusement Vision and Sega, and just a really great follow-up to F-Zero X on the Nintendo 64, with all the crazy cast of 30 characters here, and really busy races, and this is fast. This really this looks good even to this day. You know, hook it up to a TV and it's fast. It has all the cool effects, and it just wows people even to this day. And it's just crazy to think that this is the so far last console F-Zero that we've got. Hopefully they'll revive the series, but because this was absolutely one of my favorite experiences on the GameCube. I love F-Zero. We have a Geist, a Nintendo funded exclusive that was something for the older, more mature audiences. This is a K-18 game, a shooter. It's not your average Call of Duty. It's something with a twist. You take possession of basically you're playing a ghost, and you take possession of your enemies. And yeah, it's an okay game. It's not, you know, GameCube's Halo or something like that some people were wishing it was, but it's a nice addition to the GameCube library. Something a bit different. Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life. This was back then when Harvest Moon games were actually good. So definitely one of the best Harvest Moon games. Hitman 2, Silent Assassin. International Superstar Soccer 2. And then we have Ikaruga. Now this, when we had D-Master's shot, the Dragon Drive was one of the worst games that Treasure has made. This is maybe the best. Of course, originally on the arcades and then ported over to the Dreamcast. It was really nice to have this on the GameCube and in Europe as well. So really surprising to have this out over here as well. And I played quite a bit of this. I still suck at it, but my best actually, I think one of my best achievements in gaming is that I could go through 1cc the game, go through it without using a single credit on this easiest difficulty, of course. But still, it was really one of the biggest elations that I got from playing a game when I finally finished the end boss without using the credit. It was all that hard work paid off, and just a quintessential 2D shooter with a twist, of course. But I'm sure you know everything about Ikaruga already. Killer 7. Capcom made this big announcement. They're going to be making 5 exclusive games for the GameCube. Resident Evil 0, Killer 7, PN03, and what was it? Was it Dead Phoenix? And was I missing anything? Well, Killer 7 was eventually, and Resident Evil 4. Killer 7 was eventually ported over to the PlayStation 2, the Dead Phoenix didn't come out at all. Resident Evil 4 was ported out to PlayStation 2 as well, and we'll get to PN03 in a moment here in this video. But yeah, Killer 7 was it was unlike anything I've played before. It had a cel-shaded aesthetic, which usually means that it's like a kid's game or something like that. But no, this is actually one of the more brutal games you'll ever play. The gameplay mechanics revolve around getting blood from your enemies, and there's constant swearing, and the plot is really schizophrenic, and it's a very unique game, and I just love it. Really enjoyed playing through Killer 7, and this was something that the GameCube library really needed, a gritty adult game that was unlike anything else on the system. Just a shame, as far as GameCube collecting goes, is that all of those 5 Capcom games that they announced were gonna be exclusives, only 1 remained an exclusive, but hey, you can't win them all. And then we get to Zeldas. First up, we got the Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition promotional disc, which includes Zelda 1 and 2 from the NES, and Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask from the Nintendo 64. It also includes a playable demo of The Wind Waker. And, as far as compilations go, this just might be the best deal that gaming has ever seen. All of these games on a single disc. So, just might be the best disc gaming has ever seen. And yeah, this was promotional only. There was pandemonium over here in Finland, where people were trying to join every competition that had this as a reward, or a prize. And you could get this, I think, at a later date as part of a console bundle. But if you already had a console, that was off limits for many. But you couldn't buy this at stores, separately. But yeah, it was really nice package, and was the flavor of the year for many Nintendo enthusiasts. And also have here it's sealed in a VGA graded case. And then we have Zelda The Wind Waker. This is the limited edition with a bonus disc, which also includes Ocarina of Time and the Ocarina of Time Master Quest. So again, some really great bang for your buck here. And I just have a really soft spot for Wind Waker. When it was first announced, or unveiled, people were really appalled at the cel-shaded visuals. And to be fair, Link did look a bit weird when he was first unveiled. They really revamped his eyes and face, especially for the final release, so it did get a bit better. But yeah, just shows that Nintendo really isn't about making the easy sequel or making the easy money. They totally revamped one of their most treasured IPs, and really took a risk with the totally new visuals, and I think it paid off. This is one of the more endearing Zeldas. Lots of character in the faces, lots of emotion, and you can even use this with puzzles. The huge eyes that Link has. He actually looks at the solution many times, and just a really some funny moments you get. Of course, it just not the cel shading doesn't end at just the visuals themselves. They do have some cartoonish moments, and the animation of the big moblins is really great and cartoony, and yeah, just love Wind Waker. I actually even don't remember thinking the sailing and the Triforce hunting as a chore. I loved it. simply the fact that you set sail and the wind is in your sails and the music swells up, and I just have really fond memories of the sailing in Wind Waker. The world wasn't empty at all for me, and yeah, just love Wind Waker, always have. And here we have the Zelda Four Swords Adventures, the first multiplayer Zelda game. And yeah, this is again quite a unique take on the Zelda franchise. Again, proving that Nintendo was taking chances with one of their biggest IPs. And yeah, nowadays, of course, multiplayer Zelda is almost like a genre of its own. It's had a couple of releases in this this series, if you will, and yeah, good stuff. And finally, we have here The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. Got here that in VGA graded as well. This one is kind of bittersweet for GameCube. This was a GameCube game through and through, and I think it was ready to be launched at a lot earlier than it was. But of course, then the Wii was on the horizon, and in the grand scheme of things, Nintendo did the right thing in delaying the game so that it could be the launch game on the Wii. It was unprecedented and probably was one of the key factors on the Wii getting a great head start. But it's GameCube deserved better, only for GameCube. No, it wasn't, sadly, but it's still nice that it came out on the GameCube. Still, Nintendo could have scrapped it altogether. But it was delayed. Finally, the GameCube version came out like 2 weeks after the Wii version, so they even gave the Wii a timed exclusive at that. But yeah, it was even though I liked Wind Waker a lot, this was a welcome return to form with Zelda, getting the adult or darker Link back from Ocarina of Time, and yeah, it was a very different in tone than Wind Waker, and just a great Zelda game. Then we have Lost Kingdoms, actually a game by From Software. This card-based Japanese RPG. And then we have Lucious Mansion, my favorite launch game. And even though it was very short, like 5 hours, it was very sweet. And I was really happy that Luigi got his own game, even though it did mean that we didn't have a Mario platformer at launch, which was the first of its kind, unprecedented for a Nintendo console to launch without a Mario platformer. And this wasn't as good as Mario platformer would have been, like Mario Sunshine, but it was nice to have something a bit different. Some light puzzling, really great graphics, some lighting effects to die for, and yeah, Luigi's Mansion going strong. Number 3 just came out on the Switch. Madden NFL 06. Mario Golf, Toadstool Tour. Mario sports games are really decent representations of their sport, of course with some Mario magic, which makes them more accessible to kids and levels the playing field a bit, not too doesn't take itself that seriously, but still it's even if you want to play just a straight up golf game, you absolutely can. We have Mario Kart Double Dash. I got here one one of the one with the red case, was the game that was sold in stores, and the black case was not to be sold separately. This came with a console bundle. And yeah, what can I say about Mario Kart? The Super Nintendo Mario Kart is of course a classic, but to me the series took off on the Nintendo 64 and the 4-player multiplayer. Whereas this doubles up with an 8-player multiplayer with the broadband adapters. If you have 2 TVs, 2 GameCubes, 2 games and 2 broadband adapters and 8 controllers, you could play this over the local area network. And I've played it a few times with 8 players, and it's a blast. Of course, the 2 riders, it's more of a gimmick than actually something that affects the game that much. But yeah, just a great Mario Kart game, fantastic battle arenas as well. Then we have Mario Party 4 and Mario Party 6 and 7. These ones came with the Nintendo GameCube microphone. And yeah, missing 5 for some reason. Gotta get that. And actually, I always remind people that people say that Nintendo is always doing nothing but sequels, and they're always doing that. But you get like 1 or 2 Mario platformers per generation. You get 1 or 2 Zeldas per generation. You get 1 Mario Kart per generation. So Nintendo really doesn't do that many sequels per series. Of course, they have so many series that each new game is bound to be a sequel to something, but Nintendo really doesn't do a lot of the same. But Mario Party is actually pretty much the only exception to that rule. So Mario Party is the one Nintendo franchise that Nintendo is doing maybe more than they should. 3 on the Nintendo 64, 4 on the GameCube, and then it was was it 1? Yeah, it was. Then it was 1 or 2 on the Wii, and then 1 on the Wii U, and now 1 on the Switch. So they kind of toned it down. Now it's the same as any other Nintendo series, so very reasonable in its release schedule. But yeah, back on the GameCube, they were really milking it for all it's worth for Mario Party games. Then we have Mario Power Tennis and Mario Mario Smash Football. It was called Super Mario Strikers in the US, and Mario Superstar Baseball. So more of the same as the Mario Golf. So just really top-notch games, good stuff. Good representations of their sport, just with a Nintendo twist. Great multiplayer games, of course. Then we have Mega Man Anniversary Collection. We didn't get this here in Europe, so this is a US copy. So this includes Mega Man's 1 through 8 and 2 of the arcade games. There's also a Mega Man X collection, but that I don't have. And I think they're, now that I have them, all of them on the Switch, so I guess they're better suited to the Switch. I wouldn't, even though I have this, like it to have in my GameCube collection. I think when I'm gonna play something, it's either on the original platform or on the Switch. Then we have Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. A huge deal when it came out. A GameCube exclusive Metal Gear Solid. Of course, this was a remake of the original one, but highly revamped. Basically, the original game story, which was top-notch, with new, pretty outrageous cutscenes, but then again, all the cutscenes are pretty outrageous in Metal Gear Solid. and the graphics and mechanics of Metal Gear Solid 2, which kind of made this a bit easy. You know, you can have the first-person mode here, so makes aiming a lot easier. That wasn't available in the PlayStation 1 original. But yeah, just a fantastic game. Really stylish cover art here, one of the best on the GameCube, I think. And one of the games that commands the highest prices on the secondary market. Then we have Metal Gear's Metroid Prime and Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. Now, you know, with Super Mario 64, Nintendo knocked it out of the park and made a 2D game into 3D, and you know, the end result was one of the best games ever. And Nintendo did it again with Zelda. You know, took a 2D franchise and made it 3D in Ocarina of Time, and the result was one of the best games ever. Now, Nintendo didn't make this, Retro Studios did, but Nintendo was very hands-on with the supervising of the game, and were very protective of the game. And again, a 2D game was made into 3D, and it's one of the best games ever again. And you know, Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, and Metroid Prime are very, very different games. They didn't even use the same formula or something. They, you know, basically invented genres while they were doing it. The first 3D platformer, and this is the first FPA, first-person adventure. I wouldn't call this a first-person shooter. And yeah, what can I say? It's definitely in my top 10 of all time, maybe even in my top 3 of all time. It's just a blinding game. The sense of isolation that you have when you're, you know, traversing a planet on your own, just scanning things and reading them, you know, gaining more knowledge of your surroundings. And you're alone there, and you're constantly finding new power-ups and opening up new areas in the game. Just really atmospheric music that changes, you know, depending on where you're going, and just, you know, excellent graphics. And I just love Metroid Prime. And people were, you know, wondering if it's going to be any good when it has, you know, lock-on shooting. You know, how hard can that be? But you know, that's not the point of Metroid Prime, the shooting. It's about the adventure and the exploration. So the lock-on was just a perfect decision for the game, in my opinion. Just frees up your fingers to do, you know, jumping and dodging and everything. So it's not about being accurate, it's about being smart in the battles. Just an essential game, you know, one of my all-time favorites. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes isn't as good. It doesn't have that. Just misses some of the atmosphere of the first one. And of course it has a 4-player multiplayer as well, which was, you know, tacked on. We played it a couple of times with my friends, and then didn't bother with it. But yeah, still, of course, a fantastic single-player adventure, and really looking forward to Nintendo hopefully porting out the first 3 in HD for the Switch before number 4 comes out. Here's hoping it's good. Sports games here, NBA 2K3, and Nintendo's own sports game, NBA Courtside 2002, and NHL 2004, and NHL 2K3. We have Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit 2, and Odama, another big box here. Also includes the Nintendo GameCube microphone, and this is from the maker of Seaman, on the Dreamcast, so you'll know this is gonna be something weird. Basically, this is an action strategy game that is played like a pinball. You have your battlefield here and troops coming down, and you have your two paddles, and you control the Odama ball by hitting the troops with the ball and the paddles, and yeah, it's just weird. You're giving orders with the GameCube microphone, and just a very very weird idea for a game. And then we get to the one Capcom game out of the 5 that remained a GameCube exclusive. PN03, product number 3. And I think that was like their third game in the pitches that they were making for the GameCube, and they didn't like bother making up a new game, just using product number 3 works okay. And this is a super stylish, kinda music-based action game. You have your nice beat. The music is beating all the time, and the main character here is also snapping her fingers, and it's a really rhythmic action stuff. And you're basically shooting at robots and advancing in very same-looking corridors, but it's really stylish, great graphics, great music, and something quite different. I can't really name a game quite like PN03. Then we have Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. The last truly great Paper Mario game, in my opinion, and many others as well. Really hope that Nintendo returns to making these, actual RPG Paper Marios instead of the spin-offs that they've been making. And yeah, this has all the charm and comedy and heart of what Paper Mario and Mario RPG before this had, and just an excellent game. And this is like with the Twin Snakes. This is in the top 5 most valuable GameCube games. Twin Snakes and Fire Emblem. Then we have Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2. And this is ported over from the Dreamcast. And I played a lot of this. Mostly played offline with my friend. Me and my friend played separately, and then we went over to each other's houses and had some couch co-op. And this is a very grindy game. There are very few different areas, but it just doesn't matter. This was the granddaddy of the modern MMORPG and modern online games. And so as such, being such an early game on the Dreamcast, you really have to give it a lot of credit for what it did. And I just love the grind. I love the finding the loot and then doing it all over again. And yeah, true story. I actually have played this online one session on the GameCube. I had the broadband adapter, and the game came with a 30-day subscription included. This was you had to pay for a monthly fee, but this had the first month for free. And I got everything fixed up and redeemed the code and played for a couple of hours online. And there were some people still playing the game, and I'm just really happy that I can say that I've actually played a GameCube game online before they shut down all the servers. Now, Phantasy Star Online episode 3, Card Revolution, it's nothing like the episodes 1 and 2, which was really weird because people loved episodes 1 and 2 and would have just killed for new areas and new loot and but the same kind of game. But then Sega gave us this turn-based, card-based RPG, which was nothing like it. You could still play this online, and it had the same. You could share the same fee that if you paid for episodes 1 and 2, you could also play 3 online. But yeah, this wasn't the same game at all, and people didn't really appreciate it too much, and yeah, it was kind of let down for me. I would have loved to continue on in the same way that episodes 1 and 2 had, but yeah, kind of a shame that. Then we have Pikmin, one of the greatest new IPs that GameCube gave us. Shigeru Miyamoto's love child, and where he was allowed to do basically anything that he wanted. And this was inspired by his garden hobby. He tended to his garden and started thinking about little things that would go under the leaves there and carry stuff, and yeah, and the end result was Pikmin. And this is I would rate this as a real-time strategy game. You're basically always commanding up to 100 troops at your disposal. They have different abilities, and you have to divide your resources and have to be mindful of the time. The clock is always ticking, and you don't want any Pikmin to be left behind when the night comes. And just a really great resource management, really tight package. People don't really think of it that way, but it really is really an excellent real-time strategy game. And then we have Pikmin 2, which expanded on the anything that Pikmin 1 made. You have your new Pikmin types here, which changed the gameplay a lot, and you also have a 2-player co-op mode here, and just a really great addition and expand the gameplay of Pikmin. And I'm really happy that we had, the series skipped Wii altogether, and we had number 3 on the Wii U, and here's hoping we can get a 4th one on the Switch. Pokemon Colosseum. This was touted as the first console Pokemon, but it's more like this pretty somewhat short single-player adventure that doesn't have all the mechanics of full-fledged Pokemon. You don't have full Pokédex and train your Pokemon in the ways that you could in the handheld Pokemon. So this isn't what the fans wanted, but yeah, it took them really long time to finally get Sword and Shield out on the Switch, and finally get a mainline Pokemon game for a console. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. Most of my games are GameCube exclusives, but got a couple of multi-platform games here as well. Puyo Pop Fever, one of the Sega games that GameCube had. And then we get to Resident Evils. Got here the full set. Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil the Remake, Resident Evil 2, which I also have as a VGA graded copy, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, Code Veronica X, and Resident Evil 4. Got one opened and one sealed copy. So this was a really significant batch of games, and really boosted the library of the GameCube, which of course was, there was a lot of color, lots of Mario games and stuff like that, so it was hurting for some more mature games, and this really fit the bill. And yeah, Resident Evil 4 was one of the Capcom exclusives that didn't stay exclusive, but boy, what a game! It almost invented a genre. You can't really do a third-person action game anymore without comparing it to Resident Evil 4. It's that good. It's that influential. The action is fantastic. It's really tight, and instead of like horror, you have panic, absolute panic when you hear that chainsaw sound. You're just panicking and trying to find a good place to think of your exits and shoot until the final moments, and then go out your exit, and then have something go wrong, and you have to improvise something, and it's just a seminal action game. Code Veronica X from the Dreamcast, and 2 and 3 weren't remastered in almost any way. They're basically the PlayStation 1 games with slightly higher resolution characters. The backgrounds were pretty murky in these games. But yeah, it all started with the Resident Evil remake, and it was picture perfect. I was blown away when I first saw this, and I couldn't believe that they could make a game look this good. And it's still kinda sad that they don't do pre-rendered backgrounds, because these days you could do some really gorgeous stuff. And the fixed camera positions are part of the charm. Really atmospheric, and you can really do some nice tricks with jump scares and zombies hidden away just outside of the camera, when you don't have a freely manipulated camera, but these fixed camera angles. So it works really great with old school Resident Evils. And really thankful that they made a totally new game with the same amount of detail and same amount of production values into the pre-rendered backgrounds with the Resident Evil 0, a totally new Resident Evil that was for a very long time was a GameCube exclusive, a Nintendo exclusive. These days you can play all of these on pretty much any machine, but yeah, this was a really big deal. A totally new Resident Evil game in the old way with the tank controls and everything. I don't mind the tank controls at all. To me, it just adds the tension when you can't maneuver all that agilely. So yeah, really fits Resident Evil, and I really hope that they'll make another of these old school Resident Evils. Now they're remaking number 3 like they remade number 2, kinda in the vein of using number 4 as the model. So really great third-person shooters. So looking forward to number 3 as well, the remake. Then we have Skies of Arcadia Legends, originally on the Dreamcast. This was one of the Sega games that Sega ported over to the GameCube, while other consoles got something else. But yeah, I think this just might be the best Sega game on the GameCube. I just love this. This is absolutely one of my favorite JRPGs, and you can't really play this all that easily. Only GameCube and Dreamcast. So it would really be cool to have a modern HD version of this, let alone a sequel. So yeah, this has very unique aerial battles. First of all, the game world itself is very unique. You move with an airship, and you're this air pirate, and the boss battles here in the game are really unique, where you have this system of it's turn-based, but you can also delay your attacks and try to get into a good position where your ship can attack the boss more effectively. And yeah, but just lots of heart here, and I love the characters in the game, and just really fond memories of this. I haven't played that many JRPGs all the way to the end, but this is definitely one of those. Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut. Again, with Sega making games for other consoles, it was kind of funny how again they decided to make get Sonic onto the GameCube, where it would compete with Mario. So I think this maybe could have sold better on the PlayStation 2, but hey, who am I to judge? We have Sonic Mega Collection, which includes all of the 2D Sonic games. Really good package. And we have Soul Calibur 2, which is of course a must-have for any Zelda fan, because the unique character in the GameCube version was Link. And kind of fits okay in the game, but I think the PlayStation 2 unique character, Heihachi Mishima from Tekken, was even better, whereas Spawn on the Xbox version was didn't really fit at all. But yeah, love Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast and on the GameCube. Really gorgeous graphics, and one of my favorite battle games of yore. Spyro, A Hero's Tale. And we have Starfox Adventures. This was the last game made by Rare before Microsoft bought them, and I think this was a bit of a letdown. People were kind of expecting this to be the new Zelda, and this wasn't the new Zelda. I can tell you that, but definitely not a bad game. It's just because Rare was on fire on the Nintendo 64. Force Gemini, for example, was one of my favorite games on that generation, and even Donkey Kong 64. Let alone Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. Rare was really good at making 3D worlds, basically. And then Starfox Adventures has some boring sections, and just not that great of an adventure game. Sad to say, but still it was very welcome. And funnily this was better than anything that Rare made on the original Xbox after they made their went there to Microsoft. But still could have been a bit better in my opinion. As could have this Starfox Assault. In my opinion, the Starfox series peaked on the Nintendo 64, on Lylat Wars, and everything after that has, they try to incorporate too much into them. You would just need the R-Wing and that's it. Maybe some Landmaster levels. But when you have stuff like, you can go on foot here in the single player mode as well, and have to do it just detracts from the overall experience. This Starfox should be just a very tight arcadey on rails shooter, and that's it. And this has some more stuff in it, and as a result, it's just not as good. But yeah, talking about space shooters, this is the one to play. Star Wars Rogue Leader, Rogue Squadron 2. An absolutely fantastic game. You know, for a Star Wars fan, this was just nirvana. But even if you don't care about Star Wars, this was still one of the best-looking GameCube games ever. Just a excellent feat of engineering by a factor of 5, and very faithful to Star Wars. Does it justice, and just an excellent game. Rebel Strike, or Rogue Squadron 3. Again, this is kinda like with the Starfox Assault, that when you start adding things to it, to a perfect formula, it doesn't get better, it just gets slightly worse. So I think, you know, Rogue Squadron 2 was the high point of the series, while Rebel Strike still being an excellent game for sure. This is kind of an curio here. This is a demo disc of Rogue Squadron 3, which also includes the original Atari arcade game of Star Wars. So I kinda, even though this was like a promotional disc handed over at Game in the UK, I kinda still count this as a separate release, you know, just because it has the arcade game here. But then we have Super Mario Sunshine. Lots of people, you know, say that this is the worst 3D Mario, and well, no, it isn't. But well, even if it was, it will still be a fantastic game. But to me, Super Mario Sunshine just has a really nice feel to it that no other Mario game before or since has had. You know, it's about Mario going on vacation, and it's this curious, you know, feeling of having these environments that kinda, you know, look like, you know, regular places that people or the villagers of Super Mario Sunshine could live in. You know, you have houses and windmills, and it's way less abstract than many other Mario games. So that gives it a very unique feel to it, and I just love that. But yeah, the flood mechanics worked for me as well. They do make the regular platforming a bit easy. You know, you don't have to use that precise of jumping thanks to flood. But then again, I just love the levels where you're stripped of flood, and you just have to use your regular platforming skills on the bonus levels. Those are some of the best levels in the game for me. And of course, I gotta show off my Shigeru Miyamoto signed a copy of Super Mario Sunshine. One of my prized possessions. Then we have Super Monkey Ball and Super Monkey Ball 2, and I played so much of these games. They're so addicting, you know. One more try, and it's just you know, these look really sleek. You know, Super Monkey Ball, of course, being an arcade game originally, and just translates very well to the GameCube and the analog control. This would have been really difficult to make with you know, previously, before analog sticks became the norm. And just, you know, in addition to the really great single player campaign, where you have a ton of tracks for you to clear, and you know, you can only open up the later tracks if you can, you know, finish the previous ones without dying or dying just a few times. So really difficult to even open up the more difficult tracks, but it's really rewarding when you do. and both of these games have a really nice selection of mini games. I think the first one had 6 mini games, and the second one 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 12 mini games. So one of the best 4-player games ever on any console, not just the GameCube. Just a really riot. Get your 3 friends and you can play the night away with either of these games. Just essential GameCube games. Then we have the big daddy here, Super Smash Bros. Melee. Nintendo 64 started the series, but many people think that Melee was and still is the best game in the series. I don't think that. I think, the best game in the series is Ultimate, but yeah, I guess I can still appreciate people playing Melee. Even though I don't think that Nintendo, set out to do such a tight and a perfectly crafted tournament-worthy, fighting game, then they kind of got lucky with Melee. At least that's how I understood the story behind the game and why it's just so perfect to be played in tournaments. But yeah, of course, this was something that this just might be my most played GameCube game. I had a nice group of friends. I always played Link, and my brother always played Yoshi, and my other 2 friends played Kirby and Pikachu. And yeah, we just had a blast. Really fond memories of Melee. And this is the 4th and final game that I have VGA graded as well. Then we have Tales of Symphonia by Namco, and a really great exclusive for a while, and then they made an improved version of this on the PlayStation 2 as well. But like I said, with Skies of Arcadia, it was one of the few JRPGs that I played through, and this is one of them as well. I really enjoyed the. I wasn't that familiar with the, well, basically any game with anime influences, but I really enjoyed this, and a huge sprawling adventure and lots of characters that you care about, and yeah, an excellent Tales of game. Then we have Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2005, still sealed. UEFA Champions League 2004-2005. Universal Studios Theme Park Adventure. Of course, you'll know this game from Angry Video Game Nerd. Good stuff. And then we have the 5th and final Capcom exclusive game that they had, Beautiful Joe. I got here Beautiful Joe, the PAL version and the US version. And the PAL version, actually, we had 2 covers of the PAL version. We had pink and yellow one. I'm missing the yellow one. I really need to get one of those. And they also made a sequel on the GameCube. And this one was also ported over to PlayStation 2 as well, as were in every other Capcom game except the PN03. But yeah, Beautiful Joe was something very different. Cel-shaded in appearance. It's basically a 2D action platformer game, but with you can manipulate time. You can slow down time and or make the time go faster, and beat your enemies that way. Really great tongue-in-cheek humor in this, and just a unique game. This you hadn't really seen anything like this when Beautiful Joe came out. I wonder what happened. Hopefully somebody, Capcom will pick the IP up again and make another. And there was also this basically a party game beautiful Joe Red Hot Rumble that you could play with 4 players. Kinda Smash Bros. Like, I guess. Then we have WarioWare Inc. Mega Party Games. I think I said Super Smash Bros. Melee is my most played game on the GameCube. This just might be my second most played. Whenever I have friends over, this is the game that we play, even to this day. It's just the best couch multiplayer game that you can play. It's a blast. It's so funny. It's so well crafted. This has over 200 mini games, or I should say micro games. I think all the games last for a couple of seconds at best. This had the same games as the Game Boy Advance original, but the GameCube version slapped on a ton of different multiplayer modes, and it's just a riot playing the game. So many good times, so many laughs were had over this game, and so many crippling losses at the last second. It's just madness. My favorite game mode of this is the 16-player one controller survival. So you have one controller, preferably a Wavebird, the wireless controller that is passed around the room. You have 16 players, and we played this many times with the 16 players. Love throwing around gaming parties. The name of the player comes on the screen, and you have to scramble to get the controller in time, do your couple of seconds mini game, and then it's off to the next one. And if you do one mistake, you're out. So you play until all 15 have done one mistake, and then there's the 16th player still standing is crowned the winner, and that's my favorite game mode, and we've played so many times of that. Just love WarioWare Inc. My favorite multiplayer game of all time. It was not the only Wario game. We also have Wario World, and published by Nintendo and made by Treasure. So something a bit different. I don't think Treasure has made a game like this. It's basically a 3D platformer, but emphasis on grabbing as much of loot as you can, and has some nice Wario humor in it as well. It's a decent game. Then we have Waverace Blue Storm, a sequel to the Nintendo 64 original, kind of like 1080 snowboarding. And this was one of the launch games on the GameCube, and picked this up as well on day one. And to this day, the water effects are really good, and back then they were to die for. It's a very pretty game, and a very unique racing game in the fact that instead of a road, you're racing on water. There's the waves, and it's constantly changing around, and you have to constantly look at the water and the waves, so you're hitting them the right way, and you go around the buoys, and it's a very different kind of racing game, and an excellent 4-player game as well, as many games were on the GameCube. And one final game here, Zoo Cube. So that's it for my whole Nintendo GameCube collection. I hope you enjoyed this very long video. Let me know in the comments if you prefer long commentary like this, or if you would prefer to see a bare bones just me showing the covers of the games for the next console collection update that I'm going to be doing. So let's see what that is. I have at least Super Nintendo, Dreamcast, Virtual Boy, Neo Geo, AES, the 3DS. So consoles like that are still coming here in my updated video series. Follow FinGamer on Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to turn on the notifications so you know when I upload a new video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.